So I took a little walk this morning because my Apple Watch has been nagging me. Every day it tells me what I've done and says, hey, congratulations. It's now been 38 days in a row that you moved. So it wants me to move. So it wants me to burn at least 410 calories, which I think takes virtually no effort. It wants me to stand up 12 times. And it wants me to periodically stop and breathe 7 times in a row. And it wants me to exercise for 30 minutes. So for the last 40 days that I've had this thing, I have not exercised for any minutes. And although the walks I take with my wife don't count because her legs are so short that her exercising walk is a leisurely stroll for me. And so it doesn't get recorded as exercise. But today I went out and I thought, by golly, I'm going to vigorously walk for a half an hour, old man that I am. And I walked for a half an hour and it gave me a medal. I got a medal.
Hey.
I had an Apple Watch for about 3 days. It kept telling me to exercise, and finally I just threw it against the wall. I said, I'm in no condition to exercise, you stupid watch.
That's right. You decided to exercise by playing handball against the wall.
Yeah, and the Apple Books thing, I spend 4 or 5 hours a day reading, I would say easily that much, easily.
Do you use Apple Books?
Somehow or another, what's that?
Do you use Apple Books?
Yeah, everything I read's on the iPad.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's no way to carry all this stuff around. It just.
Well, I know, but I mean, I use a Kindle for most of my reading. But I'm wondering, like, you find Apple Books?
It might have been. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was Apple Books. Might have been the Kindle app on the iPad. But I remember, I don't know how it probably turned itself on during one of those automatic updates that I didn't authorize.
That's right.
But I remember this thing. I would open up a book and I'd start reading, and it would say, "Congratulations, you've met your goal." And I looked down. It's like, you read 10 minutes today. It's like, I have not yet begun to read, you stupid machine. Let me know when I've read 12 hours a day, and then it could tell me, don't forget to eat.
Yeah, I do get the streak.
You've met your goal of reading for 10 minutes. Whoa!
Whoa, yeah. 10 minutes is how much I read when I'm in bed, and I've been reading for an hour, and I tell myself, just 5 more minutes.
Yeah, and it's like lately, especially, I've been reading it's been so much, and it's so exhausting. I read it as I'm falling asleep, and I have to read the same page 4 times. You know, I read it, I fall asleep about a third of the way through, then I go back to the top and I read it, I got the first paragraph a little better, I fall asleep about 2/3 of the way through, and I have to go read it again and again and again. And it's excruciating.
I get the Kindle, I think, either that or Scribd. I subscribe to Scribd, but I just buy books individually on Kindle. And I think it's Kindle that sends me these little things that says, hey, congratulations, you read for 21 days or something like that. And I'm like, I read for 59 years. You don't,
exactly.
You have no idea.
Who's going to give me credit for those?
Keep your participation trophy to yourself, you stupid machine. Let me know when I've read more than any human being in the Western Hemisphere.
That's right.
That's a medal I'll take.
I want that. I want to see like a little icon that shows me catching up to the Bill Whittle and Stephen Green icons.
There you go. We'll turn it into a friendly competition.
Pedal harder.
I had actually been walking for 4 or 5 minutes when suddenly my watch made a noise that I had not seen before. And I looked at it and I was like, what is that? And it says, it looks like you're outdoors walking. You want to keep track of it? And I'm like,
that will count as a workout if you do that, even if you're walking slowly.
I picture the little people who work at Apple who send me these personal messages through my watch. You know, that's a human individual who's sending that to me. I picture them going, is he outdoor walking? Do you think, hey, look at my screen here. Is this guy actually walking?
Bring up Sector 19 on the satellite.
That's right.
That's him. Zoom in. Yeah, we got him biometrically. It is. It's Scott Ott. He's walking.
They hardly believe it.
I hate those nag notices, but I do keep the one on that tells me to stand up at least for 1 minute every hour. I don't know if it's actually all that good for your health like they say it is, but it does wonders for my mood. Not to be, clenched and typing and reading the news for 3 hours in a row. Get up, move around, take a break. It's really good for your psyche.
I decided to play along for a while here, and although I haven't gone whole hog and adopted the Apple Fitness thing, they keep nagging me saying they'll give me 90 days of free Apple Fitness, after which it's $10 a month. And I was like, you know what? That's extra. That's a lot.
Yeah.
This is such a perfect segue into my topic. I feel like I should go first.
I feel like you should.
You should go first.
I really don't know how to put this, honestly.
The words we've never heard you say.
That's really.
Second first in all of 20 seconds. I just find myself utterly exhausted and sometimes just incapable of facing this news anymore. That's just the bottom line. That's the truth. I just sometimes I can't do it. I know I've written 3 Moving Back to America show scripts that I didn't record because I either lost confidence in them or I thought, my God, this is all we talk about. It's the assault on whiteness. It's COVID. It's Biden, or on a day when we want to take a break, it's SpaceX, and that's it. That's all there is. And I'm watching the world go insane in front of my eyes, and I just find myself incapable. I'm not saying I'm not capable of dealing with it. I'm not like falling apart or crying or anything. I'm just incapable of interacting with it. I just don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to do. I cannot believe the things that I'm seeing on a daily basis. And I know that part of it is almost like designed to fill us with despair, and I don't really let that happen. And I know I'm also watching an awful lot of news, and I'm deep, deep, deep in the middle of the insanity, and most people don't have to spend that kind of time. They get a little bit of perspective on it. But more than anything, I just feel like I need to this is the only thing that comes to mind. When we moved to Florida when I was 11, we had, for the first time in our lives, had a swimming pool. Most houses in Florida have swimming pools. And I got used to taking care of the pool, and that's just the job. And then the water got murkier and murkier and murkier, and I kept trying the chlorine levels, and it just didn't seem to make much difference. And then somehow we learned about this thing called backwashing the filter.
Ah, yes.
And I didn't know what backwashing the filter was. And then I think there was like a hand crank, honest to God, outside on the pump or something. Really. And it's like, and you crank this thing and this goop just comes out. Just goop. And then after that, it was working fine again.
Cleans it
for
right up.
months and months and months. And that's how I feel right now. I just feel like I need to backwash this filter somehow. I just feel I'm not trying to sound like I'm complaining or crying about it. I just don't know what to do. I mean, it's my job. This is what we do here, is to talk about this stuff a certain number of times a week. And I don't know what else to say sometimes. I don't. And I want to backwash the filter. And I'm reminded of Abraham Lincoln saying, because he was a log cutter. I mean, he was a log splitter, rail splitter, much longer than he was ever president. And he said, if I was given 6 hours to chop wood, I'd spend 4 hours sharpening my axe.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm just absolutely without an edge. My voice is going, and I don't know what to do about it. And so I'm kind of thinking maybe for once I should just shut up and listen. And I'm certainly not the only person in the country who's feeling this right now. And maybe there are people out there in the comment sections and members who can give me some advice, because I don't know what to do about it. I just know that I'm becoming virtually incapacitated, and I know I'll get over it. I just don't know what to do.
You need that light at the end of the tunnel, even if it's very dim and distant.
I believe in that light, though. I do. I really do believe in it. And if I didn't, I'd give up.
I think there's a difference. This is kind of it made me think of the connection between people who are sort of what they call recreational drug users and people who are addicts and abusers. And the average person is a recreational news user. And so that's just kind of one of the sports that they watch, and it gets them amped up a little bit, but they're not completely consumed by it. But by the nature of what you do, what we do, we are absolutely immersed in it. And so for the recreational user, there may be some pleasant side effects of a nice little buzz buzz that doesn't, keep you up at nights too long, and you wake up the next morning and you're okay. But for people like us, you either don't wake up the next morning or you wind up in an ambulance somewhere because you're using a product that was meant to be used in small doses to give you a minor response, and you're using it in heavy doses and you're getting a major response.
I'm taking too much Bactine. It's like, and you all right?
Okay. Just the word Bactine was enough.
That's a great word. I was that was another thing that was introduced to me when I came to America was Bactine. It skinned my knee. My Aunt Marty said, I'm going to put this on there. And I was, no, please, God, because it usually just stings. And then she went, oh, what is this amazing stuff?
Yeah, it was a miracle. Bactine. Yeah.
But I think also, one of the aspects of that reason why I like that filter analogy is because not only do you have to take all of this toxicity, you kind of have to find a pathway through it. You can't just say, well, everything's gone to hell and that's all we can do about it. You got to find the angle on it that's either informative or hopeful or both. And the honest truth is I do not feel despair. I do not feel like it's all over. I don't feel that at all. I just don't know what else to say right now at this moment. I look at my news sources every day and I just see the same 4 stories and I'm completely gobsmacked by it. I'm incapacitated, and I think I'm losing my voice psychosomatically because I feel like I'm losing my voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just finished reading a book called The One Sentence Persuasion Course, and the one sentence, not to be a spoiler for you because, you should go pay the $4 I did and buy the book, but it's a very short book, and the one sentence is roughly 27 words, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it says basically people will do anything for someone who can encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. But if you get those...
I get the quinfecta.
From memory, yeah. But if you get those out of whack and all you're doing is confirming confirming their suspicions,
throwing rocks at their
and
friends
helping them
and stuff.
throw rocks at their enemies, but you're not encouraging their dreams and allaying their fears, then you wind up in this swirling. As this is my seminary roommate, my life is a swirling vortex of negative thoughts and emotions.
That's no fun.
Carl, thank you for that. That line has stuck with me for 25 years.
I know I've already said it twice or 3 times or 4 times just in this segment, but I just want this really clear. It's not despair. It's not, oh, it's over. It's just sadness. It's just this overwhelming sadness. Yeah. And I just go for a long walk on a longer pier.
Yeah.
And then Apple will say, hey, it looks like you're outdoors taking a walk.
It looks like you've moved for 30 minutes. Congratulations. You're going to live another day.
Okay. So we shall grapple. So we have that to look forward to. I think
that'll be a real uplifter.
Oh boy. Thrill a minute. No, actually, I was having similar feelings and similar thoughts, and I ended up figuring out a nice little fix for it. I don't know if you can do it in California. It worked pretty well here in Colorado. I had a nice weekend. Not in the house.
What?
Out
what is
and
that?
about. Yeah.
See, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about.
It was.
No, I mean it.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about this on the actual segment, but I'll give you a preview here. It was a nice, normal weekend. The only thing even close to political about it is walking in and out of a restaurant and in and out of a shop. Had to put the mask on. And that was about it. Otherwise, I just had a really great day with my kids on Saturday. I had a nice lunch with my best friend on Sunday, ran some errands, and I have to tell you, I won't say I've achieved inner peace because, well, that's just not me. But for the last couple of days, I've had almost this relaxation hangover that has given me a sense of well-being I haven't enjoyed in months and months. That's kind of
it, It's like the one of the things that really helps. It doesn't help me put content out the door, but one of the things that helps me stay alive is that when I go out into the world, I don't see the kind of things that I'm told are out there.
That's right.
I see people who are friendly and happy, and I see people who aren't carrying these grudges and want to murder everybody. And I went out for dinner with Zoe and his wife a couple weeks ago. We had a fantastic time. I go down to they've reopened this, one of my favorite restaurants. There's a guy there who I absolutely love named Fernando. He shows me pictures of his little girl every time I go there. He shows me more pictures, and I'm thinking the world is fine. Everything's good. Why do I feel so awful all the time? Why? And then I realize, okay, that's the plan. And so I'm not going to let them win this.
Well, and even if
there are times
I don't
when it's
think
just too much.
That there's a bunch of people out there that says, how can we make as many people as possible feel miserable? I think what they're doing is they believe that their business relies upon getting people into a certain state mentally that will keep them engaged. And so it's helpful to social media sites. It's helpful to the mainstream media to get those eyeballs. I had Fox News on earlier today while I was reading, here I am sitting in front of Fox News, reading the Wall Street Journal, like doing all this. And they were promoting the interview that they were going to have after the commercial break. And Harris Faulkner said something about how, like, this may be the most important interview you ever see. And I thought, come on, Harris. But they have to keep you engaged because the only way they make money is by having your eyeballs on that screen at all times. And so whatever it takes to do that, it's not necessarily I want to ruin your life, sir, but if in the course of getting the eyeballs to get the money, I have to ruin your life, well, that's just how it rolls.
Yeah. The news, this is a tangent, but maybe it's part of the reason we're all having such moods lately. The TV news was never what I consider very good, but it used to be much better than it is now. Back when the networks ran them as not for profit, but for prestige. We're trying to prove that TV is worthy. This is back in the early days of television, and we're going to do that by trying to put out a solid news show. And if it loses money, that's fine. We're making money hand over fist with Gilligan's Island and I Dream of Jeannie. We're going to be just fine.
I miss those days.
Yeah, the idea of turning the news into a huge profit center leads exactly to what Scott was just talking about.
I thought, Steve, that you were going to say the news used to be better when it was 22 minutes a day.
That too.
That was, I thought that was the best part about it because it lasted for 22 minutes. You got a break during that 22 minutes for commercials, which were actually much more enjoyable to watch. And then it was over.
I'm not even sure that. I don't think they had 8 minutes of commercials originally. I was rewatching some of the old Star Trek, the original series, Real Trek. And some of those episodes run 56, 57, almost 58 minutes long, which means they were just running a couple of minutes, 3-4 minutes tops worth of commercials every hour back in the late 60s. This idea of 22 minutes is fairly recent. I remember reading an interview with one of the producers or creators of Friends, the old sitcom, who said when the show started becoming really popular, the first thing the network did was cut them down from 23 minutes to 22 minutes to make room for an extra couple of commercials. And the first thing that had to go were the writers' favorite bits, just the sort of random conversations they used to have in the coffee house, because you got 2 or 3 plots moving. So the fun stuff, the cool stuff, the writerly stuff got the axe. We used to get a lot more TV every hour.
Now, and you know what's interesting about that? Because it's a great point, Scott. You got 22 minutes or 24 minutes or 26 minutes of news a day. That's all you got. And they had the decency to break that up into 7-minute segments. You never got 22 minutes of news in a row. You got 7 minutes of news. And it's like Soviet submarines have been detected off. Oh, my God. Oh, Skippy Superchunk. Thank God. I love that stuff. And you'd have a chance to come down a little bit. You could decompress a little bit. And then they'd bring you into some other thing. Oh, God, here we go. And then you'd learn about how Charmin was the bigger picker up, and it was 3 times more absorbent
Bounty
than
is the
next
picker up.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so I don't have to endure this onslaught. But now it is 24/7 because I go looking for it. That's what I have to do.
May I make a shameful confession? Something you just reminded me of, Bill.
Please.
After 20 years of marriage, 15 years of fatherhood, I'm still the only chunky peanut butter eater in the house. I haven't been able to convert anybody.
I joined that. Is there a support group?
Right.
Can we?
We need one.
Let me just say this, boys. Skippy Super Chunk, strawberry preserves.
Oh
not
yeah,
jam.
gotta be strawberry preserves.
White bread, and then you gotta nuke the Super Chunk just a little.
Ooh, I hadn't thought of that.
Got to nuke it just a little so that it's all really like melty, and then you just kind of scoop it on there, and you get yourself some chocolate milk, and you're good to go.
Yeah,
man, you can face anything. That's my problem. I'm not getting enough peanut butter jelly and chocolate milk. I'm vitamin deficient.
I don't know what it is about Wonder Bread. It's not good bread, but I don't want a PBJ on anything.
No,
Wonder Bread.
That's right.
That's not bread. Okay, fine. Whatever it isn't, whatever it is, this bread-like substance is what I want.
We used to
call it.
I was raised by my grandparents, and when we got home from school, Nan was there. She worked at home, and my grandfather would drive to Philadelphia, so it was quite a distance to get to work. And we'd get home from school and go into the kitchen, and Nan would have like a pyramid of peanut butter sandwiches. This was our after-school snack. This wasn't dinner. We already had lunch. We hadn't had dinner yet, and in between, she had this stack. There were 4 boys, and she would always cut them on the diagonal because they don't taste good if you cut them straight across and make them rectangular.
Straight across, that's communism. Yes.
And she'd stack them like it was like one of those Thomas Jefferson fence designs where the logs were like laying over each other and then zigzagging kind of thing.
She made like little triangular stacks of PBJs for you guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
That, and then you'd have the cup of lemonade, and of course she had put so much sugar into it that it reached super saturation. And at the bottom there would be a half-inch delta of just sugar.
That sludge. I get a spoon.
4 or 5 more grains, and the whole thing just
out.
turns to rock candy. It's just like
that's right. Yeah, if you put a stick in there, it would immediately crystallize.
My brother made rock candy. I think that's just sugar boiled in water until it turns hard.
Pretty much.
With food dye in there.
I remember reading how to make rock candy and thinking, this is what they do at Los Alamos or something. I mean, this is like a laboratory experiment.
This is cracking me up. You know what my 15-year-old did? Well, actually, both the boys decided to get into a baking contest at like 5 p.m. on a Sunday night, which you can imagine what a mess and hassle that turned into. But number one, the 10-year-old made a pretty decent cake, even if he was a little impatient with trying to get the frosting on there, and that led to some breakage. But the 15-year-old, my budding chef, makes this raspberry coulis and presents it on 2 perfect little scoops of ice cream, and it was outstanding. Where does he get this from? I don't make dessert.
I had not even considered training my children to make delicious desserts for us.
We didn't train them.
That's a good
idea.
idea.
One of them looked up the recipe on the cake box, and the other found a recipe online.
At least you empowered them. It's all about empowerment.
Yeah. Steve Green's dessert recipe is barbecue bourbon cake.
Oh, that could be really good.
Okay.
Could be.
So
anyway, so much for my.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do that, and then and Steve, you have an extra episode this week, or the bonus episode that we like to call it. I saw this story. It was actually a Wall Street Journal editorial under the headline "Reconsidering Times versus Sullivan," and I don't want to get into the details of it and do any kind of legal analysis or anything, but apparently there is a D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals judge named Lawrence Silberman, with a B, Silberman, who Amy Coney Barrett used to clerk for. And in a partial dissent on a recent case, he said that the court should start looking at reevaluating the Times versus Sullivan case that is precedent for a lot of lawsuits against newspapers. Because when you sue a newspaper and you're a public figure, you have to actually prove that whatever they wrote it was not just false, but that it was done with actual malice is the phrase. Yes. It was done with actual malice, and that's defined as a reckless disregard for the truth. And it's a very difficult standard to prove. And basically, Silberman is saying that's too high a standard. And he has been quoted in the past as referring to the Washington Post as the New York Times, and the New York Times is basically Democratic Party organs, and so he's definitely got an axe to grind here. But I thought that's fascinating. What do we want in a nation that prides itself on having freedom of expression and a free press? How much do we want to dial that down when it comes to suing newspapers? Like, is there a balance that you can somehow strike that says, well, it can be something short of actual malice? Do we want newspapers to be sued for merely inaccurate information and be able to be sued for money damages? Or is that too high a standard?
If I understand you correctly, in order to prove liable, you have to prove that the information is inaccurate. You have to prove that they know it was inaccurate, and you have to prove that they intended to harm you by printing this inaccurate information.
Well, they're saying in this editorial board piece in the Wall Street Journal, they're saying that you have to prove actual malice, the legal term, and that is a reckless disregard for the truth. It doesn't sound like they go so far as to say you have to prove that they were out to hurt you, but it's kind of like me going out in my vehicle inebriated. It's like, yeah, I wasn't intending to kill anybody, but I had a reckless disregard for the safety of others.
Then I would lower the standard. I would say the standard look, everybody makes mistakes, so it's not publishing something inaccurate. But if you publish something that you know to be inaccurate, I think that might be a better world for us right now, honestly. If you publish a story that you know to either be not true or is a gross misrepresentation of the truth, in other words, you see an article or a study and you pull sections out of that and basically pitch it the exact opposite way that anybody reading it would go, yeah, I think it's time for that. I mean, this whole thing with Donald Trump calling Georgia and saying, you got to find me these votes kind of thing, right? It's like, it just didn't happen. And it certainly didn't happen the way that it was pitched to happen. And now that it's over, it's like, well, I guess it didn't really happen that way.
Well, and that's where it gets sticky because it's not just empirical facts and saying, well, that NaCl is actually salt, but you said it was something else. It's not a scientific fact. A lot of times the media is merely, and they would defend themselves this way, merely reprinting what others have said. And in fact, I just heard Harris Faulkner say this on Fox News today. It's like, oh, I'm not making this claim myself. I'm just saying that it's being said.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve, sir.
This is what's ruined the news. I just wrote about this for PJ last week. It used to be if you wanted to print something, you had to have two sources. The old editors, the crotchety editor telling the young journalist, if your mother says she loves you, check it out. And instead of having that standard, the new standard is you'll never believe what they're saying on Twitter. And then that is the story. And Fox will run it first, or CNN will run it first. And then the other network that didn't run it first will say, you wouldn't believe what they're saying on the other network, which is what they're saying on Twitter, which is absolute bull and garbage and woke progressive bullies. But that's the new news standard. People are talking about it.
I think there's an argument to be made that we need to let news outlets say false things as part of free speech.
Of course,
yes,
but they can't say things that they know to be false. Right? If the news take the example you just used, okay, the news reports on this and they say, well, I was just reporting what somebody else said. Okay, somebody else was wrong and I read their stuff and they were wrong and now I'm wrong. It's still an accident. That's still not the same thing as saying, this guy is saying that this is true. I know this to be false, but I'm going to say it's true. That's the distinction.
Yeah, but the defense of that would be, Your Honor, I don't do any research. So how would I know? How would I know that it was false?
That's my defense. Yeah. But since I'm an honest person, I know and countless stories or videos that I did not do because I saw something that seemed so incredible to me and I found out, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
Okay. So that goes. And to knowingly publish something you know to be false is different than repeating something that you believe to be true.
And here's how fussy I am about that. For years while I was writing scrappleface.com, the erstwhile satirical website, I was known to myself anyway to pull stories when I questioned the veracity of the original New York Times story or the Washington Post story. Like I would start to write a satirical piece and I'd be like, wait a minute, is that really true? And so like I would yank a fake news story because it might not be true.
No, that's it. It's exactly right. You just don't want to be wrong, but that's not a widespread problem among the mainstream media.
But I thought it was interesting for how it's kind of like how much liberty should you have is the old argument. But it's like, do we really want a world in which your local newspaper can be sued for saying something false that they weren't necessary? It wasn't just a reckless disregard for the truth. It was they didn't know that it was false and they were too lazy to do the research. Yes, let's hit them with a money damages claim for $3 million and bury them.
Let's make them run the corrections on the front page.
And by the way, we can talk about this the suit that the Bee is thinking about bringing against the New York Times for defamation.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
They're thinking about suing the Times because the Times repeatedly says that the Bee uses satire to intentionally disperse false information.
Well, that's quite the opposite.
That's slanderous. That's a libelous rather. It's a libelous thing
satire
to say.
site is actually using fake stories to state things they believe to be true.
Right.
Yeah.
So to say that the Bee is distributing disinformation under the guise of satire is, in my opinion, a libelous charge.
Interesting. They're going to have a hard time getting that.
There are three levels of satire. I probably got on this mini rant before. The easiest form of satire is nothing more than sarcasm. It's oh great, it's snowing again.
Oh, is it, Steve? Really? Wow, that's great. I didn't know that.
That's when you say something you don't believe in such a way that everybody knows you don't believe it.
Yes.
Good satire.
Wink, wink.
And the Babylon Bee hits good satire at least with every story, is when you say something that's not true in such a way that you can maybe make people think that it might be true. And that's
Did you come up with that all by yourself?
That's the level that the Bee usually hits. And then great satire would be, the epic example of that is Jonathan Swift's Modest Proposal, is when you say something you don't mean in such a way that you get somebody else to think that maybe they believe it. And that's why you had people nodding along. Well, yes, perhaps we should be eating Irish babies. And those are your levels of satire.
It's funny, all that time that I was writing that, I never wrote a story trying to fool people. Like, I always thought when I was writing the story that people would get it. Like, I never tried to trick them into thinking something was true that wasn't true.
Comic articles are for people with a sense of humor.
Exactly.
And the Times doesn't have one. And neither do the people that hate the Bee. And I suspect they understand that by the reason they want to shut the Bee up is because it's making people laugh at them.
Yeah, they can't stand it.
It's troubling. Okay, so
Indeed.
Times versus Sullivan to the Babylon Bee. That's what we got right there. Stephen Green.
Oh, hey, it's my turn.
Yes, it is. And would it be safe for me just to put a little check mark next to the second episode?
It would be safe.
Okay.
Although I'm looking at my headlines here, and I realize I didn't pick a story for me, so I'm going to have to do that after backstage while we're changing our shirts.
You mean in the barrage of stories in that episode, you don't have one for yourself?
Yeah, but I'm going to fix that because I've got good ones for you guys. I left me out. That's no
Fix
good.
it like a cat.
I'll get that fixed.
Okay, so given that, what would your prime episode be about this week?
Here we are 2 months after, 2+ months after the swearing in, months after the election and all that, and I still can't believe Joe Biden is president. And then I thought, but is he?
No, that's one of the things that disturbs me so much. Is there a president? It's not a question of I don't like the president. It's like, is there a president? Is there an individual, or is there a collection of people that are helping him up the stairs.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about. I just
now,
got to notice
play
my
the trip
AirPod
clip,
is running out of battery
up.
here, so may have to switch that out. I'm sorry, what was that, Scott?
You're not playing the trip clip from this week.
No. Okay. I mean, we could. It might make for some decent B-roll. Did you guys
Chevy
see the
Chase
ones?
made a career doing that? So.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, Gerald Ford was a football player. He was stumble once. That's your reputation if you're a Republican. Did you guys see the clip somebody put together of Trump swinging the golf club and the ball hitting Biden on the back of the head, and then he falls down the stairs 3 times? Whoom, fall. Whoom, fall. Whoom, fall.
Yeah, that's a new thing I've noticed a lot on TikTok, where they'll have a sequence of like 3 different videos where somebody will pick up something and throw it, and then it'll come flying past somebody else, and they'll just kind of swing at it as it goes past, and it'll hit somebody else in the back of the head. Yeah,
somebody did that with Trump playing golf and Biden falling up the stairs. It's a great clip. I'll see if I can find that for you. Andrew Malcolm wrote something that was so damning. Well, the thing is, he didn't even write it. He's just the guy who noticed it. He's a columnist. He's been around forever. Really good guy, soft-spoken. I like him. He's writing for Red State now. Did you guys watch Biden being interviewed by Clinton hack George Stephanopoulos on Good Morning America last week? It was like his warm-up.
You mean impartial journalist George Stephanopoulos of ABC News?
Yes, that's the one. Total softball interview. They sat on this thing for 24 hours almost. They did the interview, I think, on Wednesday morning. They aired it on Thursday morning. So it's not like Biden was live on TV. But Andrew Malcolm is the guy who noticed. He said, what you likely missed in the avalanche of adulation was a tiny italic note on ABC's transcript of the interview. Edited for clarity. Not for time. Not to put in a commercial break, but for clarity. So ABC News is now in the business of clarifying the president's thoughts for you.
Maybe they were clarifying what Stephanopoulos was saying.
Good Lord.
Okay.
So, who knows what we've got? It's a hot mess.
Yeah, I saw him do his remarks after the shooting in Boulder, Colorado, and that was as we record this today. And he was clearly reading from a cue card, or teleprompter, as frankly they should, to make sure that
for something like that, yeah,
to handle that properly. And I thought he handled that with decorum, although then he immediately went into his now's the time to ban assault weapons again and that kind of thing. But I had already seen 3 or 4 politicians, including the governor of Colorado, the representative from that area of Colorado, and I think the mayor of Boulder, all make their statements. And I don't think that President Biden was any worse than the other politicians.
What a high bar we have for the great republic.
Sad to say.
My governor is frankly not all that bright. How this guy got $1 billion, I'll never understand. Because he basically seems to very sincerely believe the last thing anybody told him. And as his coterie shrinks and gets more and more woke, the governor just gets worse and worse. Agriculture is our second biggest industry here. And he tried to declare Saturday a vegetarian day for everyone in Colorado. And we responded by grilling steaks.
You should have declared Saturday a vegetarian day, and then it would have been a day of fasting, and that would have been appropriate.
Well, it looked like somebody had written the speech for the governor, and what they had done is they had put a series of little prose vignettes in there talking about the ordinary life that everybody leads, and then something tragic happens. But it was like they came up with 6 or 7 scenarios like that and basically left a note saying, hey, Governor, pick one of these. And he decided to read all 7 of them. And so it was like the same thing being said over and over again. It was pretty awkward. But
as I said, he's not that bright.
Now, and my danger here in this show, Steve, though, is I don't really watch that much of Joe Biden talking, nor did I watch of any president. Really, I didn't have time to sit down and go, okay, let me see their entire interview with George Stephanopoulos or whatever. Life's too short for that. But in the brief times that I've seen him, he seemed lucid and competent and not out of his mind. But every time you suggest that, then people say, well, there's somebody whispering in his ear, or he's reading off a cue card, or he doesn't know who his Secretary of Defense is, or something.
Well, he didn't. He said, and he forgot the name of the Pentagon. He said the fellow that runs this place.
Over there.
That's just kind of Joe. I could hear him saying that. At least did he call it? If he called it the
Joe.
octagon
Scott,
or the dodecahedron or something like that.
He said not. That place over there.
Biden used to say anything. I mean, literally anything to anybody. But there was always an internal logic to the crap he was spewing. You get him off the prompter now, and there's no longer any logic to the crap he's spewing. And sometimes even when he does have the teleprompter.
By the way,
this is a real decline.
Has anybody else besides me realized that Biden went into the Trump administration one way, came out another way, mentally seems greatly impaired? But has anybody else noticed that his smile is now utterly lopsided? It's like
it's always been a little bit, but yeah. Also,
no. It's like this.
He's got an old man shuffle now.
No, but I'm telling you.
Is he having a stroke or something?
I was about to say,
that'd be my guess. That would be my guess, and maybe not so minor. His smile is now so asymmetrical, but when you look at him prior to that, I didn't notice that. And that's a classic example of people who've suffered a stroke. In fact, that's one of the warning signs that you may be having a stroke is, can you smile?
Well, there's probably a good reason why I get most of my news from newspapers, and that is that I don't want to see things like this. I'm more of a written word kind of guy, although I will listen sometimes to like audio news, but I don't watch much.
Yeah, I don't watch the actual news, but I will watch the clips, preferably off of C-SPAN if I can get them.
There you go. Okay, so basically the topic is there a president?
Yes.
Okay. Well, is there another 10 minutes of content for this show? I think not. We're at 43 minutes of recording
that's a good one.
time.
Yeah.
And we just want to, again, thank the members who have made this possible and for their regular and vigorous contributions, not only financially, but also to the member forum, the member blog, the comments sections. And I get to see a lot of the communication from people who are sending notes to encourage us or to correct and rebuke us. But in any case, it's good to know you're out there. We're grateful for the way that you make this possible, and frankly, what you're doing mostly. Every once in a while we have somebody who leaves membership and says that they're not watching the videos enough, and so it doesn't justify their $10 a month. But if you talk to the vast majority of members here, they don't see it as paying a membership fee in order to get certain number of minutes of videos. They really see it as being part of the production crew that makes it possible for people who aren't even paying, people who are out there watching on Rumble or YouTube or coming through Facebook or whatever, to provide a service to those people to be able to convey some ideas that you think are important. And so you really are producers of this program. And
Absolutely.
We're grateful for that. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.